the second scenario in this problem is the impact of increase in taxes. Here again, you are asked to reflect graphically what would be the impact of increase in taxes in our ISLM curve. Again, we would put our labels as indicated earlier. Interest rate on our y-axis, income on our x-axis. Initially, we had an equilibrium of point A, which corresponds to an income level of YA and an interest rate level of IA. So now we are saying that there is an increase in taxes. Tax is basically included in the IS curve, so if there is an increase in tax, our disposable income would decrease. So our disposable income would decrease. That would indicate that our consumption would be also decreasing. So our tax increase impacts our IS curve. We are on the goods market equilibrium, so this can be indicated by a shift in our IS curve. IS curve was initially on IS0, so if tax increase, our IS curve would shift to a new position which is indicated by IS1, and this shift is actually motivated by an increase in our variable tax T. Here again, we would have a new equilibrium which is indicated by point B, and at point B it is easier to see that we have a new income level which can be represented by YB, and again we would have a new interest rate which is represented by IB. So an increase in tax is part of a contractionary fiscal policy by the government. When the government is increasing taxes, it is intending to reduce economic activities. So this is again reflected by a decrease in our income from YA to YB, and there would also be a decrease in interest rate from IA to IB. The third question in our exercise 11 is autonomous money demand increases. So this here again you are asked to show graphically the effect of an increase in the autonomous component of money demand. For that we would again use our diagram, and we would put the labels initially. We would have income on our x-axis, interest rate on our y-axis. We have LM0, which is the initial LM curve, and we would have IS0, which is our initial IS curve. So at the equilibrium point A, we would have an income YA, and we would have an interest rate which is indicated by IA. So here our autonomous money demand is increasing. This is to say we are on the money market. If money demand is increasing, previously our money market equilibrium was money demand is equal to money supply. If money demand is increasing, that is to say our equilibrium condition is impacted and our money supply is decreasing. So the autonomous component of money demand would result in a decrease in our LM curve, which is to be indicated by a shift leftwards of the LM curve, and this can be indicated by a new LM curve, LM1. And here we would have a new equilibrium point B. In the equilibrium point B, we would have a new income YB, and we would again have a new income, a new interest rate IB. So this shift of LM curve is actually motivated by an increase in our autonomous component of money demand, which is DO. The fourth exercise in this exercise is consumer expectations decline. How does this shock affect the equilibrium in the IS-LM model graphically? Here again, we would use our graph, which is already developed. We would put the labels as we have been doing so far. We have LM0 and we have IS0. So the question is consumer expectations decline. That is to say, our autonomous component of consumption is decreasing. So we are still talking about consumption, and we are still on the goods market. So our IS curve would be impacted. If our autonomous component of consumption declined, we would have a shift leftwards by the IS curve, which would give us IS1. So initially we had an equilibrium condition of A with an income level of YA and an interest rate level of interest rate A, but now we have a new equilibrium at point B, which have a corresponding income level of YB and interest rate level of IB. And the shift in IS curve from IS0 to IS1 is actually motivated by a decrease in our autonomous component of consumption, CO. So the shock in the consumer expectation can be reflected in the IS-LM curve by a shift of IS curve to the left, which would give us a lower level of income YB and lower level of interest rate IB. The next scenario is higher investment. The entrepreneurs put their rose-colored glasses and want to invest more. How does this shock affect the equilibrium in the IS-LM model graphically? So we are still saying that the investors are wanting to invest more, and the autonomous component of investment, or BO, is actually impacted in this case. So there is an increase in the autonomous component of investment BO. That reflects in our IS-LM curve. As we have said, IS represents investment and saving. So investments, if they increase, they would be reflected in the goods market. Initially, we had an equilibrium of A with corresponding income level of YA and corresponding interest rate of IA. However, we have said now that there would be a higher investment and the investors are wanting to invest more. So this is an impact on the goods market, which should be reflected on the IS curve. The IS curve would shift rightwards to IS1, and this shift is motivated by the increase in the autonomous component of investment, which is BO. In this case, if we have an increase in investment, we would have an increase in income, which would give us a new level of income at YB, and we would have an increase in interest rate at a level of IB. So again, our high investment shock in this scenario is captured by a shift of IS curve from IS0 to IS1, and this resulted in a higher level of income and a higher level of interest rate.